The day Earth was shamed. The conclave hall of the Galactic Council glittered with crystalline architecture and anti-gravity spires. 37,000 delegates from across the stars had gathered, their bioluminescent skin, metallic shells, and vaporous forms refracting the chamber's shifting lights. At the center, a lone human stood. Ambassador Reza Miles adjusted his collar and stepped forward. "Members of the Galactic Council," he began, voice steady. "Humanity extends its gratitude for this invitation. For nearly 4 centuries, we have honored every treaty, obeyed every protocol, and contributed to peace. Yet, we remain voiceless in your decisions. Today, we ask only this. Treat us not as relics of your amusement, but as equals among the stars." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some delegates blinked multiple eyelids. Others hissed or hummed dissonant tones in disapproval. At the elevated dais, High Matron Varelia of the Zanari Confederacy rose, towering over the assembly in her crystalline exosuit. Her voice echoed with haughty modulation. "Humans speak of equality," she said with venomous amusement. "Yet their history reeks of blood. Let's remind them of their place." A sweeping hologram ignited above the chamber. It played scenes of Earth's darkest moments. Mushroom clouds blooming over cities, trenches filled with corpses, children starving while leaders debated. Centuries of humanity's pain, laid bare before the stars. The audience laughed. Varelia turned her luminous gaze toward Reza. "This is your legacy. You're fortunate we let you into orbit, let alone this hall. Be grateful." The laughter turned to jeering. The human delegation stood motionless, faces pale and tight with shame. One of them whispered, "Turn it off, please," but the montage played on. Reza clenched his fists. "This is a violation of diplomatic protocol," he said, his voice hoarse. "You are not protected by our protocols," Varelia sneered. "You are nothing." 2 council guards stepped forward. One reached for Reza's shoulder. "Escort the human delegation out," Varelia commanded. "Let them watch the rest of the conclave from the servant gallery, where they belong." The humans were marched from the chamber under the gaze of trillions watching across the galaxy. Back on Earth, billions stared at their screens in stunned silence. A collective breath was held. Then came the rage. The president of the Terran Union stood before the United Assembly the next morning and spoke just 3 words. "Never again. Prepare." The conclave believed Earth had been broken that day, that humanity would slink back to its forgotten corner of space and lick its wounds. They didn't realize they had just ignited the kind of fury only humans could cultivate, a fury born not of ego, but of memory. And Earth never forgot. Not humiliation, not betrayal, not weakness, and certainly not the day the galaxy laughed. We remember. We prepare. The stars stopped laughing. But Earth remembered every jeer. Publicly, humanity withdrew. Embassies were closed. Trade routes went silent. Earth was labeled reclusive, ashamed, irrelevant. Council commentators mocked the silence. The Zanari declared the human question resolved. But behind the stillness, beneath Earth's surface, something vast began to move. In the Arctic Circle, under miles of reinforced alloy and quantum shielding, Project Thanatos came online. The broadcast from President Amina Calder was unrecorded, her words transmitted only to Terran command in deep black sites across the colonies. "We showed them peace. They showed us mockery. Now we show them what humanity becomes when we are scorned." The plan had existed in theory since the earliest days of interstellar contact, an unthinkable failsafe in case humanity's place among the stars was denied. It had waited for activation. Now it began. First came the withdrawal from interstellar networks. No more Terran tech shared. No more joint scientific efforts. Earth's quantum AI, Nix, was removed from the galactic grid. The Council called it a tantrum. They didn't notice that Earth's entire digital infrastructure was being rewritten in encrypted quantum dialects undetectable by alien systems. Then came the Legion of Retribution. Chosen from thousands of colonies, forged in vacuum simulators, grown in grav-warp chambers that bent time to accelerate training. These weren't soldiers. They were weapons. Augmented minds. Reinforced bones. Neural sync with combat AI. They didn't salute, they nodded. They didn't fear, they calculated. Commander Alina Drax stood at their head. Her first words to the Legion became mantra. Forget pride. Remember pain. We are the vengeance of a wounded world. While the Council debated resource tariffs and ceremonial dress codes, Earth sent sleeper agents into their capitals. Biologically disguised, linguistically fluent, equipped with mind-hacking nanites and face stealth implants. Over decades, they quietly embedded into systems, mapped power grids, and harvested secrets. Even deep space colonies, like the icy bastion of Titanos, orbiting a rogue planet in Council Exclusion Zone D3-9, began to bristle with unseen weaponry. Massive cannons were hidden beneath tectonic crusts. Interdimensional probes tested unstable physics. Humanity began experimenting with forbidden technologies, fold space rifts, singularity weaponry, memory erasure bombs. Ethics were filed away in sealed rooms. No one questioned. Everyone remembered the laughter. When a Terran diplomat asked the new Prime Minister of Mars whether peace with the Council was still possible, he answered, "There will be peace, but we'll begin with silence from them." By 20750, human ships no longer lit up galactic sensors. Council fleets reported strange distortions, blinks in deep space, unexplained disappearances. The Council dismissed it as anomalies. But Earth was not idle. It was a bowstring drawn tight, and revenge was a warhead waiting in the dark. The first strike. The attack came at 4:19 Galactic Standard Time. The Relay Nexus, a station the size of a small moon, hung in the void between Council space and the Helion expanse. For 80,000 years, it had linked civilizations, handling faster-than-light communication, star lane synchronization, and diplomatic channels across 2/3 of the galaxy. In less than a second, it ceased to exist. Sensors didn't detect an incoming vessel. Defense systems reported nothing. One moment, the station was transmitting. The next, it was gone, replaced by a churning rift of collapsing matter and broken physics. A dark energy singularity weapon, once thought theoretical, had been deployed with clinical precision. 2 billion lives were lost. No warning, no declaration, no trace. 16 minutes later, the Terran broadcast interrupted every channel across Council space. The screen shimmered with static, then revealed the silhouette of a human figure, masked, armored in black, backlit by a burning star. The voice was synthetic, cold, unmistakably human. "We offered peace. You gave us mockery. You showed the galaxy our scars. Now, we show you our resolve." The hologram flickered, revealing the shattered image of the Conclave Hall, the very same where humanity had been humiliated 50 years prior. "You taught us shame. We've learned vengeance." Panic swept the stars. Within hours, 17 Council outposts went dark. Ships vanished mid-jump. Wormhole stabilizers collapsed. Entire defense arrays turned on themselves, sabotaged by Terran agents who had waited decades for activation. In the capital of the Zarathi Combine, lights failed, reactors surged, and planetary orbit shifted by 0.3 degrees, enough to trigger tectonic collapse. At the edge of Council territory, 3 scout fleets investigating the Nexus's destruction encountered nothing. Then they encountered pain. Terran shadowcraft, equipped with graviton cloaks and plasma lattice torpedoes, dismantled the fleets in silence. No energy signatures, no transmissions, just vapor trails and shredded hulls drifting in the dark. Back on Earth, Commander Alina Drax stood aboard the Terran flagship Vindication. Her voice echoed in the war chamber. Phase 1 complete. Begins silent escalation. Across Sol, the skies filled with ships emerging from artificial folds in space, sleek, angular, black as the void. Not for defense, not for deterrence, for war. The Galactic Council convened an emergency summit. Alien leaders bickered, blaming one another, dismissing the scale of the threat. Only Matron Varelia understood. She remembered the human ambassador, Reza Miles. The one she mocked, the one she made an example of. She remembered the fire in his eyes, buried beneath shame, yes, but fire nonetheless. And now that fire was burning its way across the stars, the council finally understood. The humans hadn't disappeared. They just stopped waiting. The Reckoning Protocol. The council's fleets mobilized too late. For centuries, they had relied on the illusion of dominance, on treaties enforced through fear, and on unity built from old wars no one remembered. Now, those fleets drifted into combat formations designed for conflicts that no longer existed. Against humanity's new arsenal, they were obsolete. The Reckoning Protocol had been initiated. It wasn't a campaign. It was a calculated unmaking. Terran command targeted infrastructure, not populations. Power grids, communication nodes, orbital shipyards. Every system that gave the Council reach, leverage, and superiority. With surgical strikes, humanity paralyzed whole sectors without leaving a trace of its presence. On the agri-world of Talavi, food distribution satellites began to fall from orbit. On Irith Prime, every AI system simultaneously shut down, infected by a dormant virus coded centuries ago, buried inside trade software Earth had once generously offered. And in the Council's greatest stronghold, Velisari Station, the jewel of their armada, half the fleet turned on itself. Human-designed sabotage routines triggered old subroutines, hidden in navigation cores sold during peacetime trade. In less than 20 minutes, the station vented atmosphere, ships shattered, and survivors screamed across channels the Terrans had long since stopped listening to. They weren't conquering. They were dismantling. Aboard the Vindication, Commander Alina Drax watched star maps flicker as one sector after another went dark. "Begin Phase 3, she ordered. From the command tier, the AI, Nyx responded, its voice like quiet thunder. Phase 3 acknowledged. Psychological destabilization protocols deployed. Initiating memory mirror. Across dozens of Council planets, holoscreens began broadcasting footage the Council never meant to be seen. Leaked logs, internal debates, the sneering laughter during Earth's humiliation 50 years ago. But now, the audiences weren't human. They were Council citizens, and they watched their leaders laugh at a peaceful people asking only for dignity. Protests erupted. Riots followed. Whole colonies disconnected from the Central Council networks in shame or fear of retribution. The Council collapsed inward, panicked and fragmented, no longer a single body, but a terrified chorus of voices, each begging for their own salvation. Varelia, once the High Matron, now the hollow face of a dying empire, broadcast an offer of peace. She spoke from a bunker, her crystalline armor cracked, her voice trembling. "We acknowledge our past errors. Humanity, let us rebuild what was lost. We offer a seat at the Council. We offer." But Earth didn't answer. No message came. No demands. No surrender terms. Only silence. And then, as the broadcast faded, a final Terran signal pulsed through every frequency. The stars remember, and now so will you. In orbit around Earth, the Vindication drifted quietly above blue oceans. The war had already been won, but the message was just beginning. Because humanity didn't want their seat at the table anymore. They were building their own. And this time they would decide who got to sit.